We are doing every Friday Bhagavad Gita.
Okay. Every Friday?
Yeah, with Raghunath.
Okay. And? So I'm looking at the audience. A reason I'm asking. I'm looking at the audience, and I'm seeing a lot of very senior devotees. And the topic that you had suggested, they've already, got that together. So help me understand how to address the topic that you want, given the audience that's here. There's some new people, right?
There are some new people.
So could you prime the pump, get me ready to do what you want me to do? The topic he wanted me to discuss is, and then why?
My wife was
Oh, it was your wife. Okay. That was good. I'll tell you, that was good.
I picked the topic.
Go ahead.
I said that we'll talk about Purushottam month.
Talk about?
Purushottam month.
No. Are you the wife?
And how to practice, like, how to be disciplined in our sadhana.
How to practice bhakti discipline. That's what you said? That's kind of, I shouldn't have asked that question. You kind of like 4th of July fireworks or something. The importance of regulated life and sadhana. Yes, that was what was Raghunandan? That was, yes? Yes? I'm here to serve. I don't know about Purushottam month though. But because Purushottam month is a complex topic, and just keeping it something that's complex simple, it's an auspicious time that comes every few years, without the detail, and it's encouraged to take some vrata, to do something more than you would otherwise do the rest of the year, the rest of the 2-3 years, other than, because it's an auspicious month. So there are different traditions and different groups of devotees that like to do different things. But it's similar, it's not the same, but it's similar to Kartik month. It's an auspicious month, and take some Kartik vrata, which connects with the regulated. Yes? Yes? The importance of regulated life in devotional practice. The importance of, not just what makes it up, but what's the importance of it. That fan, can you do something about the fan? Well, there's many things, and something that has always resonated very much with me, because I heard Prabhupada say it enough times that it made a lot of sense and went in. When you clearly define a goal, then it's very easy to take steps towards the goal. And conversely, if the goal, or if a goal is not well defined, it's very difficult to take steps towards something that's not well defined. So this is a An example of that is what has been achieved in USA and Canada, North America, over a period of 4 or 5 years, by setting national and North American goals in book distribution. Book distribution has more than doubled, close to tripled. It's past the mark of what was going on when Srila Prabhupada was present, with all of his enthusiasm of encouraging the devotees to distribute books, and far more full-time devotees living in temples than these days. And we passed that mark. Yay! And one of the effective methods was setting a goal. And the captain of the team was Vaisheshika Prabhu, and one of the slogans was, "Goals are powerful." And it's true that when you set a goal, what starts to happen is your intelligence, rather than being distracted or lazy, starts to focus on what are ways to achieve the goal. When you're committed, not just know what it is, but you're committed to the goal, then it helps greatly to activate the intelligence to achieve the goal. And then so many different ideas start to flow in and how to. This is, not materially, but spiritually as well. So, for regulated sadhana, we could say, what's the goal and why? It's for those of you that are parents and you're interested in having your children accept something that's important, like, clean your room. Whenever I say that, I see parents smile. How did he know? So why? Or another discussion recently was with the newer generation. It's not just one place, it's newer generation, have a different set of values than their parents' generation, and then the parents' generation, slightly different set of values specific to respecting of elders, and when parents say, that's it. Not like you don't question, you do because your parents say. That's it. So now it's a whole, not just discussion, but at least I'm hearing from parents, there's argument about something. So without belaboring that one, it's the mind. And, having regulated sadhana, why? Or why not? It was part of a discussion with some I won't name the place. One place they're doing a lot of activities with children, different groups with children, and so it was children. It was 2 gatherings. It was just like for the children. So one of the questions was, why God? And one reply I gave was, why not? They weren't ready for that one. And then there's logic besides scripture, that things come from a source, and our experience is, like, here's a table. There's the materials, but where'd the idea of the table come from? It came from a person. And where'd the materials come from? The materials came from some source. So, by inference or logic, there's a source. And why? Because it's just, that's our experience. There's a source of things, and there's an ultimate source of all things. So, why regulated sadhana? There goes our hostess. She's busy taking care of the guests. Why? And because if you understand this sadhana will help you achieve a goal. Well, what's the goal? And is it important to me? Is reaching this, if you don't have the clarity about the goal and is it important to you, it's pretty hard to do the what. It'll be intermittent at best or cosmetic at best, a little better, but intermittent, just external, mechanical. And it's hard to maintain something that's just done mechanically. We get distracted, and so we may do it mechanically, but our mind is elsewhere. So the whole of the yoga practice is any system of yoga. Prabhupada writes this, and it's true. There must be control of the mind. And it's very difficult to control the mind. It's in Bhagavad Gita, and it's true in our experience. But what will help control the mind? When the mind has a goal, and the intelligence is directing the mind towards the goal, and then the senses are going towards the goal, and then it's easier to go there. So what's the importance of regulated sadhana? I'm all of this blah blah stuff is, we need to know where it's going. Why sadhana bhakti? Why is it important? It's going to take us to the goal, and what's the goal? Some appreciation of the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. Chapter 1, Nectar Devotion, and the first 2 characteristics correspond with sadhana, which is the topic I was asked to speak about. Kleshagni and Shubhada. And klesha means suffering or misery or distress or something like that. So any one of those. And what's the root cause of suffering? If you're a Buddhist, it's desire. That's Buddha's teaching. His realization, his teaching, and then the solution is become free from desire. And when you get on the other side of desire, what's left? Nothing. Or give it a nice name. Nirvana. Enlightenment. And what's enlightenment? Void. Shunya. Nada. Zippo. Nothingness. So let's do it again. Distress, misery, suffering is due to desire. To become free from desire, to become free from suffering, become free from desire. So that's now Bhakti says differently. And Bhakti says, or our acharyas make it very clear, that Prabhupada says it so many times. Listen carefully, and you'll hear him say it many, many times when you listen to his recorded lectures. The root cause of suffering is ignorance. And then, in sequence, from ignorance comes ignorant desire. Because the living entity has desire, Prabhupada would say. We can't become desireless. It's not possible. You can become anesthetized, but when anesthesia wears off, the desire comes back. It's just temporarily suspended. That's nirvana. It says that cessation of material existence. It's not the soul. It's not self-realization. So when ignorance is there, then there's ignorant desire. When there's ignorant desire, there's ignorant activity. There's ignorant activity, there's misery that comes from that ignorance. There's karma, bondage to illusion, maya. Therefore, the bhakti process is to remove ignorance. And it does it just by itself. Vasudeve Bhagavati bhakti yoga prayojataha janayati ashu vairagyam jnanam chalyad haitakam. Knowledge arises. That knowledge dispels ignorance. Dispels ignorant desire if you do it properly, in the proper, not just do it, but do it with the understanding of why. And so keep the objective in mind. Conscious sadhana, in other words. Not just sadhana. Conscious of pleasing Krishna. Not just, let me get out of my suffering. That's not. What happens when let me get out of my suffering is like the impetus. When the suffering diminishes, then submission slackens. And when submission slackens, what happens? You go back down again. Or you perform your sadhana regularly, inattentively, because the purpose is now slackened, the purpose of diminishing the suffering. So the purpose of bhakti, so you diminish suffering, it's natural in the beginning that is an impetus. Krishna says it in Bhagavad Gita. There are 4 types of pious people. Chatur vidha bhajante mam jana sukratanorjana. And one of them is people who want to get rid of that distress. So it's not wrong. However, we have to move from that position to another position. And the position is, Krishna is to be pleased. So to have, I'm making a case, I'm a lawyer making a case here. I'm looking at our hostess. That regulated sadhana, there has to be a clear sense of why. Because we can push ourselves, or push the mind, or push your children, or push whoever you want to push, and it can go only so far. But the higher purpose is not just the pushing, the higher purpose is the attraction. There's this nice little example of Emerson. And anyone here, well, let's just say, in the back side of Bhagavad Gita, Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau, they say, Ra Ra Bhagavad Gita. So, they're both considered transcendental poets. And recently I was mentioning that somewhere. And a college student said, oh, I really like Thoreau and Emerson. I like their transcendental poetry. I was surprised that people today even read. And what to speak of, like, get absorbed in it and say, I really like it. So anyway, in a later stage of his life, after reading Bhagavad Gita and sitting by Walden Pond and writing his writings and things, well, that was Thoreau. He was on a rural property with some cows and bulls, and this is a little story. He and his son were trying to get a little heifer into the barn, and the heifer was being stubborn. He wouldn't move. The more they pushed, the more he resisted going in. And they pushed and pushed and pushed, and nothing. That's the mind, right? When the mind's supposed to do regulated sadhana. And it's like because we got complacent, because the misery went away, it's the mind is troubling us, and it's hard. It's hard for sometimes. So the story goes, there was an assistant, a maid, and she was smiling, seeing what they were doing, and she held her finger up in the air like this. She went over to a little bucket of salt, dipped it in the bucket of salt, came in front of the heifer, placed it in front of the tongue of the heifer, and he started moving towards the salt. And she smiled. So the message is, the attraction towards the goal So in that case, it's the tongue, but the attraction towards the goal of regulated sadhana helps the impetus for regulated sadhana, and that's the importance of it. It has the capacity to remove ignorance. It has the capacity to remove all kinds of things, like in addition to ignorance, there's impurities of a heart, or anarthas, that block the attraction for regulated sadhana. Bhaktivinoda Thakur used these two terms, the mist of ignorance and the clouds of anarthas. You've heard that before? Yeah? So, the sun is shining. Well, not today here in Washington, a little bit it did, I watched. So, but when there's clouds, the sun is shining, but the sun doesn't come through the clouds. And sometimes early in the morning, especially in North India, in the wintertime, there's lots of mist or fog. And so the heat and light of the sun doesn't go through the fog or the clouds. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur's statement or metaphor is that which blocks, that which makes it difficult for us to have regulated sadhana is we don't have a taste for it, and so we, it's a chore. Or we do it unsteady or whatever it is, but the power of regulated sadhana is if we do it with the right reason and attentively, consciously, then it can remove anarthas and it can remove ignorance. And there are forces that are binding us to material existence. I know, just say devotee children. There's so many examples, but devotee children. Any one of us, for that matter, any one of us, most likely we have engaged in some devotional service in a previous lifetime. Most likely. And we didn't finish. And so, another birth, and went through that horrible experience of teenage life. And then, the whole thing, the whole shebang. Old age, disease, and death. Janma mrityu jara vyadi. So there are things that are binding us to that cycle of birth and death. So it's not just liberationist message, but beyond nirvana is the life of the soul in his full unfettered activity in relation to Krishna. That's what the Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us, and that's what the holy name is meant to give us. And that's what regulated sadhana can give us, if it's done in a careful, regulated way. So I'm emphasizing here the why to get the what. What's important about regulated sadhana? It can take us beyond material existence, into the spiritual realm, into our eternal relationship with Krishna, and beyond those things that are just even in the sadhana stage, beyond the kleshas. Sadhana bhakti has that power. Gradual, it gets more complete and then totally, absolutely complete as bhakti progresses. But even sadhana bhakti has that power. So we have the clear understanding of why it makes it much easier. It's the how to get the heifer into the barn. How to get the mind to be attracted to Krishna when there's ignorance and anarthas. Jiva Goswami explains it's not the anarthas. It's not just in this one lifetime. You have a whole bundle of anarthas, a whole many lifetimes worth of anarthas that every living entity that takes birth carries with them, along with the ignorance. We have a whole package, carries within the mind. And the mind needs cleansing. But sadhana has that power, that capacity. Now, another nice understanding, that again this is a Jiva Goswami reference. Well, just speak a little bit about Jiva Goswami, along with the regulated sadhana, if that's okay. The importance of regulated sadhana. In his Tattva Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami says that he's going to take certain references, primarily, to establish the essential truths within the Bhagavatam, primarily from the Bhagavatam itself, and also from the primary commentator Sridhar Swami, as far as it pertains to consistent with bhakti, because there are some sections that are strategically not, and principal acharyas from the Sri Sampradaya, and essentially he takes truths wherever it's truth. He takes gold from a filthy place. You know that phrase? Paramahansa. So one of the places he takes in his explanation of the power of sadhana bhakti is from, of all places, Patanjali. No, he's not Bhakta Patanjali. But he taught about the system of yoga. And in his explanation of the system of yoga, he gives a little sutra-like definition of what constitutes abhyasa, or our word is sadhana, practice, sadhana bhakti, abhyasa, making some endeavor. And there's 3 parts, and otherwise it doesn't constitute abhyasa or sadhana. There's something that's regular, something you do for a sustained period of time, and with faith, or with the confidence, the conviction that this is going to take me to where I want to go. And if any one of those 3 is missing, not just the regular part, but sustained over time part, and then you can do the sustained over time part and just be dutiful, but not conscious. Mechanical, but not conscious. Not carefully guard against the 10 offenses. According to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you can take many births and not get the goal of love of God, which is meant by the process of chanting, if we continue to make offense. So we have to strive to overcome offenses. And you have to have a reason for wanting to strive to overcome offenses, because that's this confidence it's going to take you to the goal. There we are again with the goal and the clarity of what it is and how the vehicle is going to get you there. Any one of those that's missing is not, according to Patanjali, and Jiva Goswami elaborates, it's not sadhana. It's not going to get you to the goal. It's not going to be, or it'll be very slow getting to the goal, put it that way. It's like if you're cooking, probably most of the people, well, I mean, certainly all the ladies here, but some men know how to cook too. And if you're cooking, you put the pot right on the stove and turn the flame up. The pot of water or the rice is going to boil more quickly than if you put it 3 inches above the flame, what to speak of 6 feet above the flame. There may be some heat that rises, and it's going to take a long time to cook that rice. So similarly, if you are focused on what's the objective of this sadhana bhakti, then it's much easier to bring your mind, bring the heifer into the barn, bring the mind to the regulated practice and enjoy it and experience the reciprocation that's there with Krishna. And even if the reciprocation with Krishna is a dry spell, that's another reciprocation, at least for the bhakta. Now for the materialist, they don't want that. I'll give this compare and contrast thing, then I think I'm going to stop and see if our host and hostess want to add something or turn the direction of this discussion. Some time ago, a few weeks ago, I was in Los Angeles, and there's a devotee in Los Angeles, at the Los Angeles temple, that's from Iran. Not a popular thing to have an Iran citizenship in the United States. But that's his citizenship. And he has a service at if you ever go to the LA temple, it's now up and running. For years it wasn't. The Fate Museum, you've heard of that one? First American theistic exhibit. Prabhupada gave it the acronym FATE. So the artists at the time, they made sculptures or dioramas, 3/4 size or half size of human stature, depicting the changing bodies. That's where the original changing bodies thing was made. Now they make the little portable ones. And Krishna speaking to Arjun from the chariot and other things. So it's high tech, it's electronically driven, and you walk in, anyway, without all the, he operates that. He takes guests through the Fate Museum. And it's helping people to appreciate the message of Krishna consciousness because the medium is nice. So that's his service. He promotes it and does the Facebook thing and the this and the that, he knows how to promote it. So it's bringing people to the temple, and they buy books at the end, and they take Purushottam in the restaurant, and it's a good experience. So, because he's from Iran, I suggested, why don't you get some Farsi books and go meet people in the community that are Farsi speaking. And I guarantee you, as soon as you show them a Farsi book, they'll buy it, just because it's in their mother tongue. And so he did that, and slowly he has a little group of people that they don't know each other, they all know him, and he's kind of like brought them together. When I was there, we had a little discussion on meditation, mantra meditation. And then the next day was one of the persons that is chanting regularly, 6 rounds or something like that, and he wanted to meet me, so we met. And he very goal-oriented fellow, said, tell me what I have to do to have my third eye open. And I'm ready to do anything. I'll leave my wife and my kid and my sister who I'm maintaining, and I'll chant 64 rounds, or you just tell me what I have to do, but I want the result. And I said, well, how about this one? Just, recognize the position that God is not your order supplier, you're the servant of, and He's the master. How about that one? That would be a really good start. And if you go with this other, then you'll be frustrated because you're the controller, you're the demanding the service from the order supplier, and that's not a good beginning. He said, because I'm chanting, but I'm not experiencing my third eye opening. Is your third eye open yet, sir? So then here's the contrast. Some time ago, can't remember exactly when, we had a japa retreat in Gitanagari. Badahari was there. It was fantastic just being with Badahari. And after the 64 round day, I think it was Labor Day weekend, so on Monday morning, we had finished our 64 rounds and we're driving to the temple, and I asked how to go. And he said, I was very surprised. He said, it was like a desert. And I almost ran off this driveway, hearing Badahari saying, like a desert. He's like Mr. Glubjaman. And so juicy and so happy, and the holy name and Badahari are, what a wonderful combination. And then he went on saying, towards the end, it was altogether different, but most of the time it was just dry. Then he went on and said, but that's part of purification. It's part of reciprocation with Krishna. When you're in Krishna's hand, he didn't elaborate this part, but when you're in Krishna's hand, just as Mahaprabhu says, he can do with me whatever he likes. He can embrace me, he can trample me, he can neglect me, he can leave me brokenhearted, he can do with me whatever he likes. Now that's an advanced devotee. And we're not, most of us are not advanced devotees. There's some advanced devotees here. So to maintain regulated sadhana, the goal is not me. The goal is Krishna. The goal is serving Krishna, pleasing Krishna, having regard for Krishna as his servant. And whether it's japa or reading or service in your home or service with your family or service at the temple, the service to the community, or Krishna should be pleased. Pleasing Krishna is everything. And regulated sadhana for that purpose, it's so much easier than regulated sadhana when you don't have that purpose. Now in the beginning we don't have that purpose. We have, this other extreme is this Iranian fellow that he wants his third eye to open at any cost. Dump my wife and kids. I'm ready. Just tell me and I'm ready, but I want results. So, pleasing Krishna is something that regulated sadhana can help us achieve, where that desire becomes the desire that rules our life. Now it's the mist of ignorance and the clouds of anarthas that are having a strong influence, if not ruling our life. And so have some clarity, learn through association and hearing and reading and discussing and praying and all the devotional activities to get closer to that essential understanding, and then regulated. So regulation is needed. Mode of goodness is symptomized. One of its primary symptoms is regulation. Cleanliness and regulation. In deity worship, those two things, cleanliness and regulation. And sincerity, but that sincerity is why? Because I want to please Krishna. That's our life. Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam. And sadhana is part of it. Sadhana gets us cleansed enough that we can be more fixed and advance it further on the path of bhakti. So our host and hostess, he'll probably look to you, so I'm looking at you. The wife. Are you okay?
Yes.
Did I address your topic all right? You want to add to it? And some additional anything?
I just need to practice it now.
Huh?
I just need to practice it.
Ah. Okay. So any comments, questions, discussion? Yes?
Maharaj, you were mentioning about the dry spell. What should be the focus when there is a dry spell while practicing devotional service? Should just the focus still be on Krishna, and the love for Krishna should help us continue with our sadhana? How does it go?
It depends. It depends on a lot of things. Depends on how long the dry spell is. And it depends on, other circumstances in your life. But one of the principles of bhakti is whatever that emotion, whatever is arising in your heart because of that dry spell, something most likely, take that to Krishna. Not just struggle against the dry spell or accept it. There's whatever the feelings are, take those feelings to Krishna. Krishna, I want to please you. Because that's what Badahari did. No, in his case that's just part of purification. It's part of the relationship with the holy name. Sometimes and sometimes. And he's, the holy name is very kind. He wasn't taking it, that was his experience, but he wasn't dwelling on, lamenting, oh, I had this expectation here and it came way over there. Krishna disappointed me, or I disappointed myself. It was his relationship with Krishna. So, whatever the feeling is, take it to Krishna. And, with the expression, to whatever degree it's there, I want to please you. I want to be in your service. If there's something, and you can introspect, if there's something that I'm not doing that I should be doing, then please show me. But we're looking for descending mercy. We're looking for connection and descending mercy. And just like we heard our hostess say, when there is some indication, then with gratitude to Krishna for revealing what that, message is that Krishna wants you to receive, maintain that gratitude in your heart and apply it. Application. In a relationship, not just doership application, but in a relationship with, the Bhagavatam or the Bhaktivedanta purports or some message from our acharyas, with staying connected with the descending mercy, the sources of those descending mercy, apply. When that sense of connection is there, then there's where the satisfaction comes, even if it's the dry spell. Okay. Yes?
Where do we get the goal?
When you forget the goal?
Where do we get the goal?
Where?
How do we understand what the goal is?
Well, you hear from those that know what the goal is. That's where you get it. And our acharyas make it clear. The language can be various, but so and this aspect or that aspect of the goal can be revealed by our acharyas or by directly in the Bhagavatam, in the verses. So that the language may be diverse, but that's where we get it from. And it's just, the diversity is just different aspects of the same thing. You have something? Uh-huh.
When you were discussing about orders of life consciousness,
Yeah.
I was thinking about how to evaluate myself, whether I'm depending on Krishna for protection, help, support, versus seeing him as orders of life consciousness. What is the difference? How do we?
Did you hear the question back there? Yes? No?
Yes.
Yes? All the way in the back? Mataji's?
Second.
Okay, good. Well, two things. It's safe to assume there's a mix. There's something that's, I want to please Krishna, there's something that's, I want something from Krishna. Because we're not pure. And it's not, akama sarvakama va mokshakama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena udaradi. Those who have broad intelligence or sufficient intelligence, even if it's with material desire, then tivra bhakti. And then we have to know what bhakti is. So my recommendation, let's say to you, maybe in general, but at least to you, is focus on what is bhakti, tivra bhakti. That definition of bhakti is, so knowing that there's mixed motivations, strive to bring your attention to how Krishna can be pleased. You exercise your bhakti muscle and it gets stronger. And it becomes something that is the way that you live your life. Start with your primary activities of hearing and chanting, and for the pleasure of Krishna, in the service of Krishna, the hearing and chanting, how can I improve the character and quality of my hearing and chanting and receive this message of, I am simply your servant. Focus there. Every day, as much as you can do every day, and then it becomes your way of hearing and chanting, and that then carries over to all the other activities. Yes?
The sadhana bhakti is just as a duty one is doing it, or is there any consciousness involved in it? Just wanted to understand.
Could you say it again? Is the devotee doing it?
No, the sadhana, when we are performing sadhana bhakti means, is it like just as a duty we are doing?
As a duty we're doing?
Yeah.
Well, probably. Because we're not on a more elevated platform. We do, this is Prabhupada, we do because we're told to do. Prabhupada says, why 16 rounds? Because Prabhupada said 16 rounds, so we do 16 rounds. Initiated devotees do 16 rounds. Why not 15? Why not 17? Why not 20? Why not 12? Why 16? Sometimes people ask that. Because the spiritual master said. So it's duty. But there's a reason behind, why does he give that as a duty? It's a minimum, reasonable, universal for everybody, at least for initiated devotees kind of standard. And so, we do as duty initially. But even to sustain, my message this evening is to sustained regulated sadhana. Why? What's the goal? Where is it going to take me to? So with faith in the person who gave the minimum standard, and what comes from that. So the part of the science, understanding the science of bhakti will help me understand what comes from that. Like her question, how do I understand the goal? From what source do I get that understanding? So yes, it's initially duty.
But if one is not keeping their consciousness, what is the goal, and not just as a duty they're doing because somebody has told them to do.
Well,
So are they going to really reach?
are they going what?
Are they going to reach that stage of?
Depends. It's up to Krishna. And another feature, I said it, I'll say it again, it's not just the duty, but the duty to the person who gave the instruction. That is to say, I'm acting in the relationship. And I'm acknowledging the relationship. I have faith in our founder Acharya when he said 16. I have faith in him. And I'm calling to him for, to become clearer and clearer and more focused on why, where the 16 will take me. And so it's just, then comes the how I do it. When I sit down each morning to chant my japa, what consciousness am I carrying as I'm doing that? So it's the relationship along with the duty. And the relationship helps one have a confidence in reaching the goal. That answer? Okay. There's a nice space for a gathering. Got a lot of people here on a Tuesday evening. Okay, we're going to end, I guess. Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki jai.